My name's Nick Pierce alongside Alan York as we put a lid on the 2014 Liberty Flames baseball season. Did not end up the way that the Flames had wanted it to, but still a lot to look back on from the course of this year. And start with the Charlottesville Regional. Liberty, a couple of games up there against Arkansas and against Bucknell. Came out on the short end of both of those. But, Alan, you go back and you look. On Friday night, Flames certainly had their share of opportunities. I think if you take the names off the fronts of the jerseys, you wouldn't have really known who was who out there. I mean, right. The Flames and Razorbacks, two very evenly matched ball clubs. Liberty just couldn't find the early hit. And then Saturday, a few self-inflicted wounds, some errors out there. And before you know it, Liberty's season came to an abrupt ending.
It did, Nick, but as you mentioned, a lot of stuff to applaud this season. But you go back to Friday night, we knew both teams evenly matched going into that ball game, similar ERAs and similar teams that are very opportunistic when it comes to offense. And it just so happened that Arkansas on Friday night was just one run better.
Yeah, it did. And Liberty had some chances early in that game, had the bases loaded, nobody out, got one run out of it. Certainly some instances you can look back to. The pitching certainly did show up. Trey Lambert gave them a chance to win out there, as he has all season long. The bullpen was nails, did not allow an earned run all weekend long. But, again, just the hitting. And it seemed like it just kind of went away from the Flames. The two-out hitting that they've been getting all season long, they didn't get it down the stretch.
No, you don't want a silver lining to be, well, they had the tying run at third base in the ninth inning as something to kind of put a feather in your cap. But, you know, Jim Thome and that team really wanted to play well in that regional. They knew going into this season this was going to be a team that maybe could make some noise and maybe make it to a super regional, even to Omaha. But it just wasn't to be this year.
Had a chance to hear from the head coach of the Flames after the elimination game against Bucknell on Saturday. Tough to swallow, but still a lot of things to try to put in perspective for he and this ball club.
I'm really proud of the guys for getting us to a regional, and just kind of didn't play as well as we wanted to down the stretch. I don't know exactly why that was, but kind of ran out of gas at the end. We had the best regular season in the history of Liberty. So I'm proud of these guys for that and winning the Big South Conference. I think we went 23-3. I think that's the best record ever at Liberty. But obviously, we're proud to get back to our second regional in a row, but we wanted to take that next step, and it didn't happen.
The goal when we got here was to get to a regional. And, I mean, Matt came in with me as well, so we did that twice. But I think if you do take a step back and look over the last 3 years, the steps that we've made with Coach Thome leading us, getting in the new stadium, getting over the regional hump, getting to the regional championship, having the best regular season we've ever had, there's positive signs. And like Matt said, we didn't have the finish we wanted, but I think our program's headed in the right direction.
Yeah, it's definitely special. I mean, we've had some special teams the past couple of years, and I feel like we've been the team that set the bar for Liberty baseball. And I feel like this is going to be a program that's going to continue to be in regionals. It's going to win regionals, be a supers, and it's been a part to be a part of some teams. I mean, we spent a lot of time together, and it's been a special year. Unfortunately, we just didn't have the finish so we wanted to.
And you heard from Matt Marsh right there, Alan. What a season he had coming off the Tommy John surgery, not even a year removed. Came out there and gave up a couple of runs against Old Dominion on February the 18th. And from that point on, his final 19 collegiate outings did not allow a single run.
Yeah, we talk a lot about coming to this year about Ashton Perritt and him moving into that closer role, which obviously he had last year as well. But really didn't know what to think of Matt Marsh coming off that Tommy John surgery. But Matt definitely was a guy that kind of got hidden there in the shadows a little bit behind Ashton Perritt, because you're thinking about, okay, if he comes in the ninth inning, we have to worry about him. But all of a sudden, there's Matt Marsh kind of bursting upon the scene this year, making his prospects for becoming drafted even that much more great, the type of season he had. And he was, as you mentioned, nails in that bullpen, just lights out, enabling Ashton Perritt to have the success that he had on the mound.
I think it's important, too, to look at this season and not forget the good that came out of it. Certainly everyone's disappointed, as Coach Thome will be the first one to admit. Did not end up the way that you wanted it to, but a Big South regular season championship. You won a school record 23 conference games. You got the first ever at-large berth to the NCAA regionals. That's huge from a national perspective standpoint going forward down the road. So when you're in this position again, hopefully be looked upon favorably there. So, you know, I think there's certainly a lot of good to take away from it, although right now I think the players and coaches still feel a little bit wounded.
They do, and they should. And they wouldn't be human if they weren't a little bit wounded, a little bit dejected after the way this season went and then how it ended here for the conference tournament and in the NCAA regionals. But you know what? This is the type of season that the administration wants here for Liberty baseball. You have the best facility, not only in the Big South, but let's be honest, arguably in the Southeast and maybe in the country, depending upon who you ask. It's got a lot of great reviews, and you go to the NCAA regionals 2 years in a row. You got guys coming back that have been there that have had some sour tastes in their mouth. Let's be honest. You make it to the regional final last year, getting beat by South Carolina. Then you go 0-2 this year. So that's going to make those returning players a little bit more thirsty to move on and make their offseason workouts that much more demanding and that much more competition filled as we get ready for the fall coming up.
You mentioned South Carolina. You talk about Liberty's finish. I don't think that the Gamecocks expected the finish they had. Florida State 2 and done. There were a lot of upsets. Florida as well. There were a lot of upsets out there. It's been a crazy tournament so far.
It has been, and that's what makes college baseball that so much fun, and the exposure that it's getting with the advent of the Bases Loaded feature on ESPNU. A lot of people are being introduced to college baseball that may not know much about it, and of course Liberty being part of that. Only 4 nationally televised games on that opening day on Friday, and Liberty was one of them.
Well, looking forward now, you mentioned the facilities with the stadium here. Certainly that'll help in the recruiting standpoint, getting to a regional for a second straight year for the first time in the history of the program. That helps as well. Liberty certainly becoming a national player here, and you're going to need to recruit some good players because you're going to lose some good players after this year. Certainly 5 seniors leaving the program, but you know, looking to next year, some guys with the draft, even Coach Toman alluded to this, some juniors that might go. You know, it's hard to say what this ball club's going to look like next year.
It's going to be a different complexion, that is for sure. But of those guys coming back that will be coming back, you know, you look at the guy like a Dalton Brady, your shortstop. Parker Breen, you would have to think becomes your Friday starter, as he'll be just a sophomore. And then you got some guys that you look at that do have eligibility coming back, and they may not, depend upon what happens in the draft. A guy like Alex Close at first base. And then you look in the outfield, Ashton Perritt. Yeah, a lot of people are talking about him getting drafted. He's only a junior. Could come back for his senior year if the draft slot doesn't really suit him. And you look at the outfield right now, you got a guy like Andrew Yasik that's going to move into left field more than likely. Will Shepard was a beast in right field.
Yeah.
He'll be a sophomore. And so
there are Nick Paxton back next year as well.
So the prospect, the cupboard's not exactly bare, even though they will miss some of those key contributors from this season.
So it'll be interesting to see here. Major League Draft coming up this week, and then certainly the weeks that follow that as far as who signs, who doesn't. And you know, we'll see what this ball club has. But I think that there's certainly a lot to be optimistic about going forward here. Well, for Alan York, my name is Nick Pierce. Once again, for LibertyFlames.com. Appreciate you watching us all season long, and look forward to bringing you some football coverage coming up here in the fall.